So today's class is about Introduction to Virology. This chapter, it consists of general virology, viral properties and overview of viral infections. So first we have to know what is a virus. Virus is nothing but smallest unicellular organisms that are obligate intracellular, and these are the most primitive microorganisms infective man. So we have to know now how they are different from bacteria and other prokaryotes, because we have grouped it into different classes. So we should know what are those typical characteristics of viruses. They are obligate intracellular. They possess either DNA or RNA, but never both. They are smaller than bacteria. They can be passed through the bacterial filters. So this shows the size of viruses are less than bacteria. They cannot be grown on artificial cell-free media. That is, viruses cannot be cultivated. They grow in animals, embryonated eggs or tissue culture. So they multiply by a complex method, but it's not by binary fission as we see in fungus or bacteria. They do not have a proper cellular organization. They do not have cell wall or cell membrane or cellular organelles, including ribosomes. So this is how it differs. This is one of the characteristics which how it differs from the cellular organelles. So we'll see in detail about what is present in the viral particle, what is it made up of, that all we'll see in my further slides. They lack the enzymes necessary for protein and nucleic acid synthesis. They are not susceptible to antibacterial antibiotics. Coming to morphology of virus. The entire virus particle is together called as virion. It comprises of nucleic acid, that is either DNA or RNA. This is surrounded by a protein coat called as capsid. Together we call it as nucleocapsid. That is the nucleic acid material which is present at the center and the protein coat which is surrounded by that, we together called it as nucleocapsid. And some viruses, they also possess a outer covering. This is called as envelope. These are the parts of or constituents of virus. So we'll see each thing in detail. First we'll see about nucleic acid. Nucleic acid may be single or double stranded, circular or linear, segmented or unsegmented. As we are seeing the general properties of viruses, we are talking in general about many viruses. So it may be of any of this type. It is not particular to one virus. So I am telling different possibilities of nucleic acid. Viruses are classified based on nucleic acid as DNA viruses and RNA viruses. Next we'll move on to capsid. So what is capsid? Capsid, it is composed of a number of repeated protein subunits, that it is usually made up of polypeptides, and these are called as capsomeres. So functions of capsid includes, it protects the nucleic acid core from the external environment. In non-enveloped viruses, it initiates the first step of viral replication, and it is antigenic and specific for each virus. Here, this is icosahedral or cubical symmetry. Capsomeres are arranged as if they lay on the faces of an icosahedron. They have 20 triangular facets and 12 corners or vertices. They have a rigid structure. And example for this symmetry are all DNA viruses except pox virus. Most of the RNA viruses have icosahedral symmetry. So, this is the most common type of symmetry. And here in this picture you can also see the different parts of the virus. So, the inner part is nucleic acid. It is covered by a capsid. Then outer part is envelope. Envelope is made up of two parts, protein part and lipid part. This all we will see in detail in next slide. So, next type of symmetry is helical symmetry. Here the capsomeres are coiled surrounding the nucleic acid in the form of a helix or spiral. They have a flexible structure. Example for this symmetry is RNA viruses such as myxoviruses, rhabdoviruses, filoviruses and bunyaviruses. There are still more, but you can remember at least these names for the helical symmetry. Next one is complex symmetry. They do not have either of the above symmetry, that is, they do not possess either icosahedral or helical symmetry. Hence, they are called as complex symmetry. They will be having some other form. Example for this you can quote is pox virus. So, now we will move on to next, that is the outer layer of the virus, that is envelope. Certain viruses possess an envelope surrounding the nucleic capsid. Okay, such viruses are called as enveloped viruses. You should understand, envelope is lipoprotein in nature. Okay, lipid part is derived from host cell membrane, whereas protein part is virus coded, made up of subunit called as peplomers. Peplomers are nothing but a project as spikes. Peplomers, they project as spikes on the surface of the envelope. So these are projected as spikes from the envelope. These are called as peplomers. Coming to size and shape of viruses. Viruses are extremely small. They vary from 20 to 400 nanometer in size. We call the smallest viruses parvovirus, that is, it measures about 20 nanometer, whereas largest virus which we know is pox virus, it is 300 nanometer. Because of this small size of the viruses, they can pass through bacterial filters and they cannot be visualized under light microscope. Below there is a picture which is showing the size of different microorganisms. Here we have compared with gram-negative bacilli, that is E. coli. Okay. Parvovirus is very small. It measures up to 18 to 26 nanometer. Adenovirus 70 to 90 nanometer. Bacteriophage 28 to 100 nanometer. Influenza virus 80 to 120 nanometer. Herpes virus 150 to 200 nanometer, whereas rhabdovirus 75 to 80 nanometer. Smallpox virus, that is an example for pox virus, it is largest, it measures about 230 to 400 nanometer. Here you can observe one more thing in the picture. There are different shapes of viruses. Okay, they are not of similar shape. So this also we can note, again it will be your MCQ. Rabies virus, you can see it is a bullet shaped virus, and pox virus, it is a brick shaped. Adenovirus, it is a space vehicle shaped. You can see the peplomers projecting, it gives the shape of spaceship. Then rotavirus, which has been not shown here, it is in the form of wheel, whereas tobacco mosaic virus, it will be in the rod shaped. Okay. Apart from that, rabies virus you have seen here, that is rhabdovirus. Then Ebola virus will be in the form of filamentous shape. It will be like a filament. These are different shapes of viruses you have to know. Based on this, you may get MCQs. So, now we will move on to nomenclature and classification of viruses. Viruses, they are grouped into different families, and viruses infecting human belong to 24 families. Okay, most of the families are further classified into genera. So if you know this table, you will understand which are DNA viruses, which are RNA viruses, and which family they belong to, whether they have envelope or not, what is the symmetry of the organism, that is virus, what is the size, and which are the representative viruses in that family. Everything is shown in this table. First family is Herpes viridae. It has double-stranded linear DNA. It is enveloped and they are icosahedron. They measure up to 150 to 200 nanometers. They consist of herpes simplex virus 1, herpes simplex virus 2, varicella zoster virus, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, human herpes virus 6, 7 and 8. Next DNA virus is Hepadna viridae. Hepadna viridae, again it is double-stranded circular incomplete DNA. They are enveloped, they are icosahedron in symmetry, measure about 40 to 48. Example for this is hepatitis B virus. Parvoviridae, they have single-stranded linear DNA. They are not enveloped. They are again icosahedron. They measure up to 18 to 26 nanometer. Example for this is parvovirus B19. Papoviridae, it is again double-stranded circular DNA. Envelope is absent. Symmetry is icosahedron. They measure up to 45 to 55 nanometer. Representative viruses are human papilloma viruses, JC virus and BK virus. Next one is Pox viridae. They have double-stranded linear DNA and they are enveloped. They have complex symmetry, that is they are either icosahedral or helical. They do not possess either of this symmetry, so they are complex. They have complex symmetry. They measure about 230 to 400 nanometer. They are the biggest viruses in shape, in size. Example are variola, that is smallpox, molluscum contagiosum virus. Adenoviridae, they also have double-stranded linear DNA. Envelope is absent. They possess icosahedron symmetry. They measure about 70 to 90 nanometer. Constituent viruses among this family are human adenoviruses. About DNA viruses. Now we will move on to RNA viruses. So RNA viruses, first family among them is Picornaviridae. They are single-stranded positive sense RNA. They do not possess envelope. They are icosahedral in symmetry. Measures about 28 to 30 nanometer. Representative viruses among this group are poliovirus, Coxsackie virus, echovirus, enterovirus, rhinovirus and hepatitis A virus. Next family among RNA viruses is Calciviridae. They have single-stranded positive sense RNA. They are not enveloped viruses. They have icosahedral symmetry. Measures about 27 to 40 nanometer. They consist of Norwalk virus and hepatitis E virus. Next family is Togaviridae. They are again single-stranded positive sense, enveloped, icosahedral, measuring about 50 to 70 nanometer in size. They consist of rubella virus, Eastern equine encephalitis virus, Western equine encephalitis virus. Next family is Flaviviridae. These again they have single-stranded positive sense enveloped, icosahedral. It is a query again, we don't know what is particularly what is the symmetry. Measuring about 40 to 60 nanometer. They consist of yellow fever virus, dengue virus, St. Louis encephalitis virus, West Nile virus, hepatitis C virus. Again, the next hot group of viruses is coronaviridae. They have single-stranded positive sense RNA. They are enveloped. They have helical symmetry. They measure about 120 to 160 nanometer. And the constituent organisms are viruses. Among this group are coronaviruses. Rhabdoviridae. They have single-stranded. These are negative sense RNA. They are enveloped. They have helical symmetry, measures about 75 to 180 nanometer. They consist of rabies virus and vesicular stomatitis virus. Next family is Filoviridae. They have single-stranded negative sense RNA. They are enveloped. They have helical symmetry, measuring about 80 to 1000 nanometer. They are Marburg virus and Ebola virus. Next family among RNA viruses is Paramyxoviridae, single-stranded negative sense RNA. They are enveloped. They have helical symmetry. Size is 150 to 300 nanometer. They consist of parainfluenza virus, mumps virus, measles virus, respiratory syncytial virus, Newcastle disease virus, metapneumovirus. If you know this table properly, you can write the morphology very easily when you are dealing with individual viruses. So it is very important to know this table. I mean, you can by heart this table. So next family is Orthomyxoviridae. These are single-stranded negative sense. They have 8 segments. They are enveloped, helical in symmetry, measures about 80 to 120 nanometer. They consist of influenza viruses A, B and C. Next family is Bunyaviridae. They are single-stranded negative sense consisting of 3 circular segments. They are enveloped. They have helical symmetry, measuring about 80 to 120 nanometer. Consists of hantavirus, California encephalitis virus, sandfly fever virus. Next group is Bunyaviridae, single-stranded negative sense consisting 3 circular segments, enveloped helical symmetry. They have measures about 80 to 120 nanometer, consisting of, I am repeating the same thing. We'll move on to Arenaviridae. Arenaviridae, it is single-stranded negative sense RNA. 2 circular segments are present. They have envelope and the symmetry is doubtful. Most probably it is thought of helical symmetry, and they measures about 50 to 300 nanometer. They consist of lymphocytic choriomeningitis virus, Lassa fever virus, South American hemorrhagic fever virus. Reoviridae, these consist of double-stranded 10 to 12 segments of RNA. They lack envelope. They have icosahedral symmetry, measuring about 60 to 80 nanometer. They consist of rotavirus, reovirus, Colorado tick fever virus. Next important family among viruses is Retroviridae. They have 2 identical copies of positive sense single-stranded RNA. They are enveloped. They are icosahedral. They measures about 80 to 110 nanometer. Example is HTLV, that is human T lymphocytic lymphotrophic viruses, or HIV, human immunodeficiency viruses. Attachment, that was by the host receptors attraction. Here the host cell will get attached to the virus particle. Then penetration, here the envelope stays back and it will inject the other particles. Then once it enters into nucleus or cytoplasm, based on the characteristic of virus, there will be uncoating. After that there is biosynthesis. Biosynthesis, that table you should remember which type of virus you should see, single-stranded, double-stranded or positive sense, negative sense, that you should see. Based on that there will be synthesis. Then maturation. Maturation is again, it is in nucleus or cytoplasm based on the RNA or DNA type of virus. Then there will be release of viruses. Releases by either by lysis of the host cells or by budding. This is replication. Now we'll move on to virus host interactions. This is the pathogenesis of viral infections. So most of the viral infections progress through the following steps inside the human body, that is by transmission, entry into the body, primary site replication, spread to secondary site and manifestations of the disease. So this you have to know how they are taking. So there are different types of routes of transmission of the infections, that is how they enter into the body, that is mainly by respiratory route, oral route, cutaneous route, vector bite, animal bite, sexual route, blood transfusion, injection, transplacental route and conjunctival route. By any of these routes they are entering into the host cell or the host body. So once it has entered, there will be primary site of replication. Some viruses are restricted to the portal of entry where they multiply and produce localized infection. You can see in the picture, they are entering into the body, they get localized, especially in intestine or respiratory tract or in skin, like rotaviruses, influenza and warts respectively. So if they are not doing that, they may multiply locally to initiate a silent local infection, which is followed by the spread via lymphatics to the regional lymph nodes or via blood or via neural spread to reach central nervous system or CNS. Second line you can see here, there is different routes of spread of the infection through lymphatics. When they are spreading here, this is called as primary viremia. There again you will see the symptoms in the patient. So once these organs are affected, again second time they are shed in the blood with these virus particles. This is called as secondary viremia, and they affect the organs such as lungs, kidney, brain, skin and nasal mucosa. Okay, these are different types of bacteremias which we see in the spread of viruses. So you have to, here there at the end there will be tropism for different viruses, that is for each virus it is specific. They determine the pattern of systemic illness. For example, Epstein-Barr viruses, cytomegaloviruses, mumps, measles, rubella, HIV, they have tropism, means attraction towards lymphocytes. So they will go and stay there only after secondary bacteremia. Then cytomegalovirus, poliovirus, HIV, measles, they have tropism towards monocytes and macrophages. So they will affect these cells. Parvoviruses, they have tropism towards red blood cells. Okay, like this they have tropism for different cells where they will go and stay. You have to know a term known as virus shedding here. So once there is entry, there is bacteremia and all, few they will shed. From few organs there will be shedding of viruses, whereas few will not shed, like we have shown here. In brain there is no shedding of viruses, example rabies, poliovirus and measles. That's what I have explained. Tropism means it determines the pattern of systemic illness. Tropism in turn depends on the presence of host cell receptors. It is specific for the viruses. So this table, whatever I have told now, the same thing is there. Next one is virus shedding. Here we should know at what stage, why they are shedding. In this table, it's important you have to know. So persons infected with viruses develop either an inapparent, that's what I am telling in the above, that is subclinical infections, or clinical infections will come under this type of manifestations. Based on that, respiratory viruses such as influenza and coronaviruses produce upper and lower respiratory tract infections. Hemorrhagic fever, they produces dengue, Ebola virus. Neurotropic viruses such as rabies causes encephalitis. Then exanthematous rashes by varicella zoster. Hepatitis viruses produces hepatitis and jaundice. Based on that, we have the clinical manifestations. Next, viral pathogenesis at the cellular level. At what levels this viral pathogenesis is taking place? At the cellular level, the virus can produce 3 types of infections in a host cell, which in turn depends on the nature of the viruses and the cell infected. So, as of now, if you know these 3 types, it is enough. So, failed infection or abortive infection is nothing but it occurs in viruses if the viruses are infected the host cells which are non-permissive, that is, they should be receptors or machineries of the supporter viral replication should be absent on the receptors. Here receptors are not present, so there will be failed infection or abortive infection. They will come and attach, but they won't get the proper receptors. Next one is cell death or cytocellular lytic infections. Here there will be inhibition of host cell DNA or there will be inhibition of host cell protein synthesis. So this will be possibilities. Then there will be fusion of the viral particles. So they will go for syncytia formation or there will be immune mediated lysis. This leads to cell death. Next mechanism at cellular level is infection without cell death. So here there are 2 possibilities. One is steady state infection, one more is persistent viral infection. Steady state infection is nothing but here the virus and host cell enter into a coexistence. Both replicate independently without any cellular injury. Okay. Whereas in persistent viral infection, there will be latent infection, but with periodic exacerbations. Or there will be cell transformation. They will change the morphology of the host cell and they will live. Or there will be latency, means they will be present for prolonged time. Or they will go for persistent tolerant infections. Here there will be no much significant symptoms in the patients. These are the different types of pathogenesis at cellular levels. This is what I have told. So what morphological changes in the host cells we can expect? Certain viruses induce characteristic changes in the appearance and staining properties of the target cells. By that we can make out. Or they can be detected by histopathological staining. So in the host cells, if there are any changes, those are called as example for that is inclusion bodies. Again, this inclusion body is your short note. You have to know about this in detail. Inclusion bodies are nothing but aggregates of virions or viral proteins and other products of viral replication that confer altered staining property to the host cell. They have characteristics of specific viral infections. They have distinct size, shape, location and staining properties by which they can be demonstrated in the virus infected cells under the light microscope. This all you have to know, you have to write as it is. So it is better to by heart. There are 2 types of inclusion bodies. One is intracytoplasmic, next one is intranuclear. Intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies are generally acidophilic and can be seen as pink structures when stained with Giemsa or eosin methylene blue stains. Example for this intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies are pox viruses and rabies. Whereas intranuclear inclusion bodies are basophilic in nature and they are classified into Cowdery type A, Cowdery type B. Type A inclusions are variable in size and have granular appearance, whereas type B inclusions are more circumscribed and multiple. Both intracytoplasmic and intranuclear inclusions can be possible in type B. So example for intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies, you have to know this with names. Negri bodies are seen in rabies virus, Passion bodies are seen in variola virus, Guarneri bodies seen in vaccinia virus, Bollinger bodies seen in fowlpox viruses, molluscum bodies are seen in molluscum contagiosum virus, perinuclear cytoplasm bodies are seen in Brio virus. These are examples for intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies. Whereas intranuclear inclusion bodies consist of Cowdery type A inclusions. Examples are Taurus body seen in yellow fever, Lipschul's body seen in herpes simplex, Cowdery type B inclusions seen in poliovirus and adenovirus, intracytoplasmic and intranuclear inclusion bodies. These both type we can see in cytomegalovirus. It is called as owl's eye appearance. One more example for this is measles. So they may ask this: tissue culture or animal inoculation or egg inoculation in your practicals and in your viva. You should know animal inoculation, which all animals are used and for what purposes. Mainly suckling mice is used for this animal inoculation for research purpose and diagnostic use as well. Egg inoculation, there are different layers of the egg which we use for cultivation, like yolk sac inoculation, amniotic sac inoculation, allantoic sac inoculation and chorioallantoic membrane inoculation. All these layers we use for the cultivation of viruses. This cultivation is mainly used for the vaccine production. Then tissue culture. Tissue culture can be of three types, that is organ culture, explant culture and cell line culture. Organ culture, it was previously used for certain fastidious viruses that have affinity to specific organs, like tracheal ring culture for isolation of coronavirus. Explant culture is nothing but fragments of minced tissue can be grown. Then cell line cultures, here we have to use the cells which have affinity, like primary cell lines, secondary cell lines and continuous cell lines. Primary cells, they are derived from normal cells and they should be freshly taken from the organs and cultured. They are capable of very limited growth in culture, maximum up to 5 to 10 divisions. Okay, example for these primary cell lines are monkey kidney cell line, human amnion cell line and chick embryo cell line. Secondary or diploid cell lines are, they can divide maximum up to 10 to 50 divisions before they undergo death. So example for this is human fibroblast cell line for recovery of CME, MRC5 and WA38. Continuous cell lines, this is the last type. They are derived from cancerous cell lines, hence they are immortal. That is, they have the capability of indefinite growth. They also possess altered haploid chromosome. They are easy to maintain in the laboratories by serial subculturing for indefinite divisions. That's why they are preferred. Examples are HeLa cell line, Hep2 cell line, Vero cell lines, BHK cell lines and McCoy cell lines. This is about the laboratory diagnosis. Then coming to treatment part, there are different groups of drugs. So, anti-herpes virus drugs, anti-influenza virus drugs, anti-hepatitis drugs and antiretroviral drugs. These are different types of drugs we have. So, anti-herpes virus drugs, they inhibit viral DNA polymerase. So, there are different mechanisms for different drugs. Then anti-influenza virus, They are neuraminidase inhibitors. They are active against H1N1 flu, avian flu and seasonal flu. Examples are oseltamivir and zanamivir. Another group consists of amantadine and rimantadine. They are matrix protein inhibitors. They are active against seasonal flu. Anti-hepatitis drugs like telbuvidine, tenofovir, lamivudine, adafovir and entecavir. They are nucleoside analogues. They are primarily for hepatitis B. We can use interferon alpha. They indirectly inhibits viral protein synthesis. They are active against hepatitis B and C infection.